Well, 143 countries, that's the number of countries that voted in favor of a UN resolution condemning Russia's annexation of regions of Ukraine. But here's the catch. South Africa, we were not one of them. It joined a group of 35 countries that abstained, saying it did not contribute to a peaceful resolution. Now, let's get the reaction by international relations expert, Professor John Stremlau, the good prof, taking time to speak to me this morning. Prof, good to have you on ENCA again. What does it tell you when South Africa abstains from something as important as this? Good morning.
Good morning. It doesn't tell me very much because I don't really know the calculus that was going on inside the higher echelons of the ANC government, and even though I'm a member, but I don't have access to the deliberations about what Russia's hook on South Africa may or may not be. You know, there's a long history of involvement with the Putin administration, including the big nuclear deal that Cyril Ramaphosa has suspended, and I must say it probably angered Putin greatly. And we've got a close election coming up here, and the Russians are known to mess around in domestic politics as they did in the United States in the 2016 and 2020 election. But on the question of the UN, here you've got a bedrock principle. 143 nations have said that they want their sovereignty respected. Now, these countries are mostly new countries because when I was a young guy, there were only 54 countries of the United Nations, including South Africa, which was racist at the time, and America, which had its own problems with racial integration and still does. So what we have is countries that are agreed that the annexation of the 4 regions of eastern Ukraine was a violation of Chapter 2, Article 2 of the UN Charter, which is the bedrock of sovereign equality and territorial integrity.
So when we start taking a look at it from an international relations perspective as well on this, when you look, for example, that we are part of the BRICS grouping of nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa as well, by abstaining, Prof, there does seem to be a perception that because of that relationship in BRICS and the issues you raised about our relationship with Russia as a country, by abstaining, we're almost taking a side, or is that an unfair statement?
No, it's not an unfair statement, but it's a question of so what. This resolution was the General Assembly. It's non-enforceable. It is a condemnation of Russia, 143 to 5 in favor against it. Russia was one of the 5 that voted. And it's a member of the Security Council, which is why it's not being dealt with in the Security Council, because it is a matter of international peace and security and should be dealt with in the Security Council. But when you have one of the members who's guilty of the invasion, of the transgression of Article 2, it makes nonsense of the authority of the UN. And I think South Africa is right to demand a reform of the Security Council. But at the same time, South Africa is betraying the sentiment that is of so many weak and new states that have been created in the post-colonial period, who at least have their own internal affairs matter of their primary business. And the African Union has been very cautious in the principle of non-indifference about the internal affairs of sovereign states, even though most wars occur within states, not between or among them. Ukraine's invasion by Russia is an exception. So here you've got a real problem of a UN which is toothless, and so therefore this resolution just means that the international community is still in favor of sovereign equality and territorial integrity as a principle, and so should South Africa be.
Because I also see comments, Prof, just as a final remark from you. I see Ukraine's foreign minister, Dmitry Kuleba, coming out after this abstention, saying that even during the 1980s, as a member of the United Nations, Ukraine had presided over the UN General Assembly Committee against apartheid and racial discrimination. There's almost this call that, well, we supported you back then, and right now you're not on our side. So I suppose from the Ukrainian side, they're asking as a country, as South Africa, why aren't you doing what we did for you? Final question.
Of course, it's a diplomatic point, but the hard reality is, Gareth, that the conflict will be settled on the battlefield, and for South Africa's ambassador to call for the Secretary General to mediate a dispute, yes, we would like to have a peaceful settlement, but at the moment it doesn't seem possible.
Maybe I'll leave this as a last question, Prof. Sorry, it just something you said just sparked my mind while you were talking earlier about our position as a South African government, but also an ANC government as well. Essentially what this is, it's leaders protecting our own country's interests. I mean, that's what it comes down to in the end, not getting tangled up in something else that doesn't really involve us and doesn't have any benefit for us. Is that essentially our stance as the country, do you think?
Well, I wish that it was, but I really can't be sure because Putin operates at the subnational level. He had financial interests in that nuclear deal, that 1.5 trillion nuclear deal. He could not be happy with the fact that Cyril Ramaphosa has suspended it, and the fact that Zuma and Gupta had concluded it and gave assurances that this deal was going through. Turned on the Nasrec vote back in 2017, and here we go into another party Congress later this year. So it just a reminder that all politics is essentially local politics, even when it comes to international relations, and which is my specialty.